one thing that I think has helped me the most is the moment I figured out, hey, hire people that are better than you. So it will make your product better. You'll get to put in some input, but the team will be better.
Welcome to The Deep Dark, a business podcast where we ask seasoned minds to excavate their history, pulling out the best insights, the hardest moments, and yes, golden epiphanies. Somewhere in the stories and laughs, we all get a little smarter and feel a little better about our own business ventures. Remember, if it didn't hurt, it doesn't count. So strap in and get ready as we plunge once again into The Deep Dark.
Step into the shadows with the Deep Dark podcast. This episode welcomes Nick Utter, a skilled freelance cinematographer who's left his mark on projects with the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Mavericks, as well as other bold national brands. Nick highlights the gritty truth on how it is to steer a creative business and overcome hurdles in colossal productions. Join us as we plunge into the art of visual storytelling, uncovering the raw realities. Don't let this episode slip you by. Welcome to the Deep Dark.
I'm Nick Utter. I'm a freelance director of photography based in Fort Worth, Texas, and welcome to the Deep Dark.
Thanks, Nick. It's our tradition for our guests to kind of open us up. So yes, for everybody, welcome to the Deep Dark. And we're going to have a great conversation with a fellow creative here and some of the work we do. And it's always neat to see other perspectives, but how you built this business, right? And what's capable these days and why we do this business. On our side, I'm going to say that this is probably the funnest part of the business. And I'm not talking about the podcast. I'm talking about the whole creative side. I just spent 2 days freezing between 17 and 16 degrees. We have a defense contractor we were doing work for in the woods, and I don't think it could have gotten any colder. But you know what? The end product is a lot of fun. And so kind of want to hear about the stuff that you're doing. I looked over the videos that you have online. Wow. You've had a spectacular career. You've had some good opportunities, and I just kind of want to dive into some of those, man, and how you came up with ideas and how you do it, and what drives you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. It's been a sort of a whirlwind. I've sort of been completely freelance since about 2013, but I work pretty much with a lot of brands, a lot of sort of corporations, a lot of B2B. Sports teams, a little bit of everything. So from like Dallas Cowboys, the Mavericks, TCU, like Leon Bridges, Under Armour. So like I prefer working sort of with a little bit larger brands. I like that workflow a little bit better than sort of working directly with a customer.
That's awesome. How did you niche it? Yeah, how'd you niche into those big brands? That's not an easy thing to do, should I say, get yourself into big brands. That is a tough road, and something that many people in your shoes would just aspire to do.
Absolutely. No, I'm so grateful with a lot of the crews and clients that I've gotten to work with over the years. I think a lot of it sort of stems when I first got started, when I was in college at TCU. I sort of was working in their sports video production department. I was sort of in charge of intro videos, posters, cards, social media. Like before this was like an official thing that colleges did, we were just figuring it out. I gained a lot of really valuable contacts just with some of my peers through college, but honestly, a lot of the people I was working with, sort of working with ESPN, working with Valley Sports or Fox Sports Southwest. So that really got me in the door, and it was able to build a lot of my content, a lot of my reels that I could show the work that I've done. And there's a saying in our business, the best way to get work is to do it. So if you want to do more sports stuff, have a sports on your reel. If you want to do more narrative, have narrative on your reel. So people want to see it before they hire you. So working with a lot of those companies really got me in the door. And then since I've been there, I've been able to sort of branch out to other sort of industries and other clients.
So when you were going to TCU, were you just sitting around one day working with the college, and you're like, I think I'm going to do this for a living and own my own business? Was that your thought?
Well, I really lucked out. I went to TCU for video production, and then I minored in business. And I think honestly, my business minor helped me the most of the film degree and everything. There's a lot of creatives that are super talented, super creative, everything, but they don't understand sort of the business side of it. And I think that has really given me a good baseline to sort of to keep going after 10 plus years, to make sure my like what my break even point is. Like all these like
Right.
other business things that you typically don't think about as a creative. I think that it helps me on that side of it. And then sort of going to TCU, working for TCU, I once I graduated, I went to a different video production company for about 2.5 years to sort of learn what was it like being a professional, like in this field. And then after that, I felt like I could do it, and so I just jumped ship and went totally on my own, and have been sort of loving it and terrified ever since.
So that big goal was kind of even hanging out there. And while you went to that first job, 2.5 years, the whole time you got like, well, I know where I'm heading. I know why I'm doing this. Ultimately, I'm going to own my own. So that never really left the front of the mind as you were moving forward.
Yeah. And in sort of this video production world, it's very common to sort of like, if you work for somebody, you can also sort of do some side gigs or pick up on somebody else's shoot. It's a very collaborative field, at least in the Dallas Fort Worth market. Like it's not a lot of cutthroat. People are very collaborative. And while I was there, it wasn't my goal, hey, I'm going to go out on my own. It was, this is what I'm doing. I'm learning these skills. They're going to help me, whether they're here, somewhere else, or on my own.
Right.
And just how it worked out, I sort of went freelance, and it sort of business has been booming since. So it's been great.
Did you have to like construct a brand for yourself and start to make sure that everybody knew that? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, I do. So I do a little bit of both. I'm a freelance director of photography, so I can work with cruise brands, join other production companies, other ad agencies, and sort of help them craft their vision on set, sort of bring that image to life. I also sort of can run a small video production company sort of on the back end, where if a client is, hey, we don't have the budget for this huge thing, it can be more of sort of a turnkey production where we can still keep working, but we can keep it all sort of in-house, where I'll sort of bring in other freelancers, other editors, other on-set crew, and we can sort of handle the production.
Right. Okay.
A little bit more in-house. So we can sort of bounce to either side, whether it's handled all in-house or I just join a production.
Right. How much of that do you spend time as the director?
Quite a bit. I think it's probably about 60% of the time I'm just brought on as director of photography, and then probably the other 40%, it might just be more corporate industrial, like working with Coca-Cola on more like internal things that somebody will never see public wise, but it's important sort of for internal reasons. So working with those like talking head pieces, those graphics, those drone video, like all of these things that aren't like national Super Bowl commercial that you see, but there's a ton of that between all of the different clients.
That's the most interesting part to me, really. And it was so funny. I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan the other day, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the gentleman that was the director of the latest Keanu Reeves movies, John Wick, right? And
I listened to that one. That one was
did
great.
you? Yeah. Wasn't that great? Listen to how he started out as a stuntman.
Yep.
And then somehow he was able to jump in and to really, really do some great stuff just because he had been around it. But I guess it goes back to your point, so multifaceted. He can work any part of that, being in the industry, and learned his way up, and then, got his big chance. So I guess the big thing for you now is we just need to get you in a movie. That's where you need to be, right?
Perfect.
Directing.
I love it.
Find the opportunity.
Yeah. Most of my world is sort of more like commercial field.
Sure. Yeah.
Sort of commercial, corporate, industrial, brand films. I've done a couple feature projects, but those, I mean, you're away 15 plus days, month and a half, 2 months. So it's like, I have a small child now. So those aren't the things I'm chasing. I love the sort of the commercial world where you're there for 4 days, 5 days, 7 days. Like that is a good sort of sweet spot for me.
Right. I'm sure. I know how the family is when you got little ones. What is your, so when you were starting this business, what was the toughest part? What was that big leap? Because all of us that have started business know that there is that moment of doubt, right? When you're about to launch. What was that for you?
I think that first, like I went freelance over, like we got off for Christmas at my previous job. I had already given them my 2 weeks. I was going to finish out December. So it was like January, let's go, fresh start. And January is notoriously slow.
It is.
Because people are getting back in the office. They're figuring out what their year-end budgets are. And so it was just that shock of that first month of January. I was taking everything. So I was filming events, I was editing, I was working in the truck for ESPN, like rolling cable. Like I had no, like, this is my path, but I was like, this is jobs. Something will stick. So that first couple months, I mean, it's probably, I might have done like 20, 30 gigs of just different things, not big things, but all tiny things. And then slowly it started to get a footing. And I started getting a little bit more consistency with clients where I get callbacks, and then my schedule started to balance out. And I would say the stress went away, but as a business owner, that never happens.
No, that never does. The stress never goes away, especially if you start to, have employees, and as that number grows, it gets to be more and more. Yeah. So, looking at your whole portfolio, and you're very diversified with the different stuff you're doing. I've seen really kind of videos, music videos, right? I've seen the Cowboys stuff. What's your favorite? What out of all of that? What really makes you happy that you get to do?
I think it's working with sort of large crews or large visions. Like how do we pull this off? One of my favorite stories that I always tell, that first year when I first got started, I had a couple consistent clients, but I didn't have that big project to be like, oh, he worked with. So I didn't have that. And I had a couple mutual connections, but no real strong ones. But I found out just on Google, like who one of the marketing guys for Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys was. And I sent him an email. It was just randomly cold call email. Here's some of my stuff. I sort of have a mutual connection, but I'd love to just grab coffee, chat. And they brought me in, and we did, the video is called Cowboys Lights, but we did that in 2013, and it plays every home game since then. Sort of before kickoff, we run around the stadium, and we flipped on individual lights in the building and took a photo. And then we edited the video together into this like crazy light show for AT&T Stadium.
Right.
And it was just this massive undertaking that I was not qualified for, but we figured it out. And it was just sort of a cool moment of sort of fake it till you make it, and then something will stick. So it was great.
I watched that video. It's quite the light symphony in order to put it away. I mean, that is quite the construct. I liked how you even the detail. Not only did you were grabbing lights off of elevators as much as you were on the playing field of AT&T Stadium, and the way that it all kind of went together. It came out really good. Really good.
That. It was kind of a fun one to work on. Kind
of like I said, a symphony of lights. It kind of almost fireworks, man. It had a lot of energy to it. Yeah. How long did that take you?
The shoot was probably 2-3 nights there. And then the edit was probably about a week. And I had to upgrade computers sort of in the middle of it, because one it couldn't take it. It was just too much. Couldn't take it. So that was a fun project to sort of get on my reel, and which sort of translated to other sort of bigger and bigger projects.
Yeah, that's part of the business. Nobody ever really thinks about, having a creative business, but, being a marketing shop too, we move through lots of data, and we're constantly having to upgrade. That's one of those line item costs you don't think about, but, that's another $15K every time you turn around when it's not working. Yeah, but that is a piece. Is there this, I know this is kind of like getting you down into the weeds, and you may not, so you can defer the question, but can you kind of detail your process of how you go about making these things happen? right?
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of different people that are working as a director, and a lot of people that would just prefer to be behind the camera, and how that works. But you putting all that together and being the conductor of that symphony, is there a process that you like?
Yeah, I can sort of speak to a project we just recently did, and it will sort of take us through that. The project was
Mhm.
for the Dallas Mavericks, and the entire video was to sort of show and tease this new uniform and new court that was sort of this. It's called the City Edition. So it was creating this product that sparked buzz, engaged the audience, and really got their buy-in. So I was involved pretty heavily on the pre-production side with the director, with the Dallas Mavericks. Um, and this was actually through my side company that we were able to crew it and bring
Okay.
all of the equipment, all of the crew, the shoot day logistics, a little bit of everything to this production. So we worked with the director going through sort of his mood and his style boards of, this is sort of what I want this vision to look like. We have one day. How do we do this on budget? So figuring out that Jenga piece of,
Right.
we got to pull off as much as we can without it crumbling. So and also working with players, you have 3 minutes maybe with a player, and then they're out. Especially Luca, when we worked with him, he's very quick. He's very busy. So figuring out how that set is going to work so that you get all of your shots, you don't miss your day, you don't go to overtime, no one gets hurt, you don't
That's a
lose
big one.
equipment. Yeah,
Right.
so there's all of these things that you have to juggle, and especially on that shoot, we figured out that this particular shoot needed this sort of vintage feel. So a post-production team actually based in Amsterdam was involved in this project, and they do a lot of work with all of the Nike crowd replacements. So
Okay.
all of the background, they'll fill the
Yeah.
stadium, everything. So there was a lot of pre-planning of how do we do this to make your job easier, that you don't go over budget, that you get the shots. So it was all of these moving pieces. And on the shoot day, we had to use sort of a stabilizer rig for the camera because we couldn't put dolly track down because it would hurt the
Right.
floors. We needed sort of a follow focus guide, pulling focus because I'm running around the court, and then the post production team was actually on site monitoring to make sure that our moves were correct, that they could build the correct backgrounds and crowds. And so it was this crazy undertaking. And the video actually, it worked. It came out well, got great response, and it actually won. It won a sports Emmy last year. So it
Awesome.
was just,
Congratulations.
thank you. It was a crazy collaborative effort with the sort of the whole crew team, Mavs, everything. So that was sort of a project that it was like full turnkey. How do we do this and it worked? So that was a fun one to take on.
So you're saying that you're going offshore for some of the editing. Are you doing editing in-house as well?
Yes. So I do a little bit of editing, but one of your previous guests that you've talked to, Chris Salters,
Mm-hmm.
number one best editor of all time. And
Wow.
I talk to him a lot. So I'll bring him into some projects, be like, hey, here's all the footage. Can you make this work? Or we're both brought in by another production where I'm just handling video and he's on post. So it's this sort of this moving hierarchy of a work structure that
Right.
you just gotta be flexible. And the goal is to make the product as good as you can with your limitations.
That's I can acquaint with everything that you're doing. The thing that I always has amazed me is how the videographer director can somehow, how do I put it, kind of loosen the reins to the editor after they've grabbed your vision and allow that
Mhm.
magic to happen. Because I mean, it is magic what's going on with the cameras. There's no doubt, but the editing makes all the difference at the end, right? I mean, it changes everything. It may either make it or break it. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And like one thing that I think has helped me the most is the moment I figured out, hey, hire people that are better than you. So it will make your product better. You'll get to put in some input, but sort of the team will be better. So the same way that on a shoot day, we might have all these storyboards and everything planned out. Here's what we're shooting. We might be on set, and then we like look to our left and we're like, this is a better shot. So we'll pivot, we'll make those on-set adjustments. And so I don't want the editor to feel like he's handcuffed, because he might see these moments also in his world.
That's awesome. So as you go through this is a big question I've been asking lately, especially with creatives. How much is AI going to affect you in your job and what's going on? Have you seen a big impact?
I've seen a lot of sort of people that are a little alarmed by it, but I think the best quote, I don't know who it's from, but it's not from me. I just can't remember who said it, but the best quote I've heard from AI is not coming to take your jobs, but people that use it are. So
Right.
Use it for those like those small tasks that you don't want to do. Use it for the background removal, or for creating a mood or mock-up board for your directorial pitch to the client. So that's how I'm using it. I'm using it for these things that used to take me an afternoon to do, I can do quickly, and use the other time for other projects or for advertising or anything like that.
So it's been a benefit for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy. Like I'm team AI, like, in a sense that I think that some of the things that it allows you to do lets us focus on the reason we're in this business, lets us focus on the vision, the storytelling, the creative, the client relationships, all of that. And it's like, I don't want to Photoshop a mock-up board of an image I can't quite find. It's like, I want to put in a prompt and be like, this is what I have in my head. So I think it's a tool that you should learn how to use and not be scared of, because somebody's going to use it.
Well, they are. And it all comes down to hours at the end. I hate to say it, everybody thinks that creatives get just to create, but there is those shackles of hours to make sure that it comes in on time and on budget, right? On time and on target is really a hard one. So how long did the video end up being for the Mavs?
I think in total, it was about a minute total runtime.
So how many hours did it create? How many hours did it take from the whole team to make a minute worth of video, do you think?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we had about 8 hours of Zoom meetings for that video. So
yeah,
like there's a lot of moving parts, but I think it's totally worth it. It was just part of the process. And it's sort of a very known term, fix it in pre. So fix it in pre-production, so you don't have to fix it in post-production. So
sure.
Figure out these red flags, figure out these moments early before you even shoot it.
Yeah.
So it's a fun and scary business.
It is. It's funny when and nothing to the level in which you do, but it always blows me away when we have clients that they ask for what we call in this house a do-me-a. Right? Just do me a video, right? I only need a video. It won't be a big deal. And then you start to go through all the pieces to that. And at the end, they're like, wow, this is way more intensive than I thought it would be. And this is far more expensive than I thought it was going to be. And, there's a lot to that, especially on the business side and making that sell. It's a whole different world. Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes on that, as far as things being expensive. I mean, video production is expensive. I mean, the cameras, you can have a $200,000 camera set up easy. So, and I mean, you rent that, you don't own that, but there's a reason some of these commercials cost so much. There's so many moving parts. And one of the favorite quotes I always give clients sort of when we're building the budget and you hit those budget walls where we're like, oh, we can't go over this. And it's sort of teaching them, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, wait till you hire an amateur. So
that's right. Yeah.
You're going to have to do it again if there's a problem. So there's a reason things cost so much, just because there's so many moving parts, there's so many people involved, and it's a puzzle that's fun to try to solve each shoot.
It is. Well, let's talk about your business for just a second. So on your business, you have all of these plates that you're keeping spinning, and you've got them going. You mentioned it a second ago where you could spend your time and money on advertising. I'm sure that at the price point you're at, most of your business probably comes through referral, but how do you go about advertising a creative business like your own, a video business?
It's tricky. And it's a constant moving target with with everything going on. So I do some Google advertising, sort of some Google paid advertising. So if you type in Texas director of photography, I might be on that list. Not a ton of money towards that, but most of my sort of advertising budget is more my time sort of allocated to advertising. So whether it's social media or like mentorship programs or teaching workshops, like all of these things, I sort of keep under the advertising umbrella. Like they are
Absolutely
advertising my name, my brand, my image. It just might not be like a dollar figure. So
right.
I think it's all so important. I do a ton of advertising sort of on Instagram, not like promoted, just trying to do scene breakdowns and behind the scenes and all of these things. It takes so much time to do, but I think it's so important to just get your name out there.
Yeah, that piece has a definite tertiary effect, because even though it may be organic, if you're not paying for ads and you're not paying to boost this or that, the many times what we find is that clients are vetting us through that medium. And it's not so much that you ever want an ad to pop in front of them, because if they're going to spend $1 million, the truth is that they're not going to do that by seeing an ad. But but they are going to go and vet you, right? Especially this generation is going to vet you to see if you're worth your salt on what you've done socially, right? That's where they go to look, and it pays dividends in the long run where you build trust early. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I do if I'm hiring a second camera operator or a second unit DP to sort of cover a part of the shoot. It's the first thing I do. Instagram. Let me look at your stuff. Let me look at your website. It's like
right.
The client's absolutely doing that. Let me just get a brief look at your style, because you can see it pretty quickly. Just looking at some images.
And if we call it having an eye. Do they have an eye? Does that, can they figure that out? Yeah, that's where we're at. It is absolutely probably one of the most rewarding, but it's one of the more difficult things that we have to do day to day, right? It takes just a huge amount of planning and just so many resources to make it right. So in your shop, I know that you're bringing in extras and you're day hiring for other things. Do you keep a whole team? Do you have a team that's full time for you?
It's more like permalance. So
okay.
I'm set up as a C corp for my company, so that handles the insurance, all of the sort of business aspects to sort of keep that safe. And on my personal side, I'm sort of an employee of that business. So sometimes it makes it easier working for large companies, because they can just treat it as like a line item to a company that I get to come with, rather than setting me up as sort of an employee.
Sure.
And so as that, I have sort of a pretty detailed list of different crews that I work with consistently. Some have different styles, some have different things that would make other shoots easier, and some not. So we're able to craft crew and equipment to sort of fit the production. We're not trying to cram like,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Here is us. Let's fit it into your production. So we'll build the crew to fit that production.
Right. It's a tough business. So all business is tough. What was the toughest moment in yours? What happened one day because we all have those. We have those days, and if you haven't, they're coming, right? But what was that tough one? So we call us a deep dark for a reason. What was it you had to overcome?
Oh, bad CPA, 100%. I had a bad CPA for when I first started out, and I now have a CPA firm that I absolutely love. Is great, works with me. He's very back to back. Like, will respond to me, will call me, make sure we're on top of things. We'll figure out ways to work some things that might fit a deduction or that just sort of fit our business.
Sure.
The other firm, they were not good, sort of put us in some weird situations, but we're out of all of that. And I would absolutely say that. So really having a good CPA behind you in those beginning stages just sort of sets you up for the future.
Yeah, it's so true. So many times in the creative world, we love the creative piece so much, on every aspect, whether you're brand building or, you're creating digital assets or media or even marketing these days, especially if it's digital, all has to be so creative. So that's the fun part. The part that most people don't want to do is, if they are, more creative minded, is jump into how analytical and hard the business piece is and everything that it takes. People probably see you on Instagram, they see what you're making, and they're thinking, wow, this guy is living just the life, right? But they don't understand all of the numbers and the books that are going in the back, and all the banking and all of the insurance and everything else that it takes.
Yeah. I would definitely say social media, when you sort of look at that, and you can sort of get a little bit of envy looking through some pages of photographers and everything. You're like, man, I'm horrible. Like, you're just looking at all this stuff, but social media is a highlight. Like,
Right.
you're not seeing any of the tough work, the 9 to
And
5,
the trenches.
Yeah, the trenches. Like, you're not seeing any of that. You're seeing, like, here's the best moment of this thing that we did. So
Right.
you sort of have to take it with a grain of salt with that. I think it's so important to not judge yourself on what you see on social media from other sort of production companies or whoever you're following.
Yeah. So as a business person, as a businessman, what kind of advice would you give to our listeners about, because it's true, we have a lot of creatives that are trying to figure out how to get into this business. And so they're listening to what we're doing, and they're listening to these podcasts, and they're listening to Tim as he puts out, best practices on Twitter and others. But what's your advice and to help them along the way?
My best advice I would give, that I always sort of tell classes or anything if I speak for groups, is just don't burn bridges. Like, you never know when somebody's going to sort of come back to you. I work a lot with ad agencies, and that world is very, like, people leave ad agencies, go to other companies, and then they remember you, and they bring you into their world. So I think it's so important, not necessarily the creative, the business side, but just more the relationships. Like, don't harm any of those. Keep everybody happy. Just be genuine. And I mean, just, I can't emphasize that enough. Just don't burn bridges, because somebody will remember you and come back to you. I think it's just bringing that back to sort of the advertising. You're advertising yourself.
Yeah. It all, at the end, it does go back to your integrity. It does go back to, at least for us, it does, their willingness to keep referring you. Right. I mean, that's kind of how it grows. And people many times don't allow, but they should, that as much as insurance on that line item on that P&L is important, so is marketing. And what you're building is the biggest piece of content that they're going to invest in. So it does need to pay off. It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what else? What have we missed today? What have we not talked about that you would like to get into? I would really love to hear more about your videos. I know time is kind of of the essence here, but what does the future look like? What's the future for you and where your business is going?
I think the future is just bigger and bigger projects. Sort of over the last probably three years, I've really put an emphasis on, I want the next big project. I want these sort of to stair step. And this year we actually just finished another project with the Mavericks, but we were able to team up with like Leon Bridges and the Dallas Mavericks, and to create this crazy large 2-day shoot where sets were built and so many moving pieces. And then where that project sort of takes me to the next level, whether that's working on a Super Bowl spot or like where that is, but I don't want to go backwards. So I'm just very excited for the future. I think this is a very fun field to be in, especially now everyone has a camera and a TV in their pocket. So media is so prevalent right now. So I think being in this stage right now is just so fun to see where it's going to go.
It is a cool time to live, right? I mean, because you get to see things. I don't know if it's great that we're not in person as much and we get the same feel that we do watching video, but it is a great time to live and to be able to experience without having to actually go. I mean, it's a strange thing to say, but it is. It's very unique, especially in the sports world. I probably go to I don't know, 3 or 4 college games a year, maybe 5. I think I probably this last year, probably 5. But I've gotten to where a really big television is more enjoyable to me watching the game than it is trying to fight traffic as I'm getting out. So I'm all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather sit on your couch than in the car waiting in traffic.
Yeah. So as a TCU grad, how are things going to go next year? The portal kind to you?
You never know. That's why college football is so fun, because you never know who's going to show up at your school. And so it's just a fun world to be a part of, and how sort of some 18-year-old kid going to college can like completely change your outlook on the day just by how they played in some games. So sports is fun. I'm so happy I get to work in that field every once in a while with some of these teams. But it's just a fun field to be a part of, to get to taste a little bit of what that's like.
Oh, it is. It's awesome. An 18-year-old can show up and change your season, and they can make $1 million at the same time. Go figure. College football, man. We used to get in big trouble for that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you being on. I hope everybody, knows where to find you, Nick. So it's what is it? NickUtter.com, right? Isn't it?
NickUtterDP.com.
NickUtterDP.com, and they can look at your stuff and where you're at, and look to see what happens. Like I said, well, I kind of intimated earlier, is that a lot of people are striving sooner or later to pull off what you've already pulled off. So congratulations. That's pretty cool.
I appreciate that. It's a grind, and it's all these teams that I've gotten to work with over the years that have really pushed over.
And it's obvious you're doing this with a smile on your face, and you're positive, so you love what you're doing. So that's neat. Yeah.
I appreciate that. It's all a facade. It's all social media.
I don't know. On this show, on this podcast, we've had a number of people that, man, they are cold as ice and their face never changes. And, I often ask myself, well, do we really want to publish this one?
This one's audio only, right?
This one's audio only, but people can pick up on the voice even when it's audio only, whether they're enthused about what they do. But yeah, man, cool. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.